with spirit. And so we invite the chime to call us into this sacred space within. We ring the chime 4 times to call in the 4 directions and to remind us of our interconnection with all of creation and with the sacred circle of life. As we feel it resonate through our very beings, we follow its call into this now present moment within. Focusing on our breath, with each inhale, we open our hearts and minds. We envision our breath reaching every cell of our being. And with each exhale, we see all barriers and obstacles dissolving into the divine flow. And again, as we inhale, we expand the spaciousness within us. We move beyond the limitations and boundaries of our bodies. And as we exhale, we ground ourselves deep within Mother Earth and into our oneness with the universe. Now, finally, we breathe our awareness into the highest expression of love, light, joy, and peace that we can imagine. And as we experience a transforming wave of gratitude, with a fullness of heart, we say yes to it all. Embracing, claiming, and knowing the divine Christ Spirit, expressing in, through, and as us. And with a final exhale, we say, thank you, God. So now fully centered and transformed by the power of Spirit, we enter into our lesson and meditation time with today's daily word.
We read from Daily Word for May 18th, 2022, shared with permission of Unity, publisher of Daily Word, that can also be found at dailyword.com. And the word is beautiful. I invite you to allow my words to be your words. With deep gratitude, I discover a beautiful world. With a mindful intention to discover the sacred nature of all things, I find beauty everywhere. A breeze caressing trees resembles graceful dancers bending and swaying in unison. Sunlight reflecting off the water dazzles like a million diamonds blazing their brilliance. Even the way my bones and muscles come together to move my body is a marvel. When I see someone engaged in something they love, I witness their joy. They are simply beautiful beyond measure. The awesome magnificence of existence is breathtaking, overwhelmingly beautiful. As I behold the stunning grace and artistry all around me, every fiber of my being sings a song out of thanksgiving for the gift of being alive. And from scriptures, out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God shines forth. Psalm 52.
I am that I am has brought me to this now moment. Here I am that I am has brought me to this now moment. Here I am to be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. I am.
In witness to the many paths to the sacred, we read from 3 sacred traditions on this morning's topic, finding the sacred in nature. From Shinto, even in a single leaf of a tree or a tender blade of grass, the awe-inspiring deity manifests itself. And from Native American spirituality, I can't talk today. From Native American spirituality, oh, great spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever hold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things that you have made, and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. Translated by Lakota Sioux Chief Yellow Lark in 1887. From Judaism and Christianity, but ask the animals, and they will teach you. The birds of the air, and they will tell you. Ask the plants of the earth, and they will teach you. And the fish of the sea will declare to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of every human being.
Hold me in your arms, Mother Earth. Let me see the wonders you share. I will hold you in my heart, Mother Earth. Bless the land, the water, the air, for the forest green and tall, evergreen sheltering, home of creatures great and small. I give thanks, praise I sing. Hold me in your arms, Mother Earth. Let me see the wonders you share. I will hold you in my heart, Mother Earth. Bless the land, the water, the air, for the waters sparkling blue, rivers flowing without end, precious drops clean and pure, I will cherish and defend. Hold me in your arms, Mother Earth. Let me see the wonders you share. I will hold you in my heart, Mother Earth. Bless the land, the water, the air, for the ocean's mighty power, womb of life for us all, ebb and flow by hour. I will listen to your call. Hold me in your arms, Mother Earth. Let me see the wonders you share. I will hold you in my heart, Mother Earth. Bless the land, the water, the air.
It died? Give me one sec. Jan, would you have any idea what's happening? I think, let's get rid of this thing. And then, hold on, everybody. Is it going? What's wrong with this thing? Sometimes it just does that. Okay, I'm going to let them figure that out, although I did have some pictures I wanted you to see at the beginning of my talk, but we'll have to pull them up after. So you all have heard me talk many times over the years about the frog pond, right? It's one of our favorite places to go where we can get a quick nature fix. So Friday evening, Alexander, Paco, and I were walking our dog, Winnie, and we're dog sitting, so we have another dog with us, Sophie. And we usually don't go that late. It was about 8 o'clock, so it was like dusk. And we know at that time that we need to keep our dogs on the leash. It's a good thing we did. Because partway through the walk, Alexander said that he saw a coyote. Now, we didn't see it, but I believe Alexander, because I'll tell you, if Alexander tells you he sees something, he saw it. And so we did our whole, it's like a loop, right? And we did our loop all the way around until we came to the platform where you can see over the pond. And sure enough, there was a coyote. And he was walking towards, there's kind of like an island, but it's not, you know, he could walk to the island from the trail. And so he's just sauntering along. We're watching him. You know, and we're 3 big adults, and we're kind of noisy. Maybe not Paco. Me and Alexander, we're noisy adults. And 2 dogs. You know, you'd think it would scare him away, but it didn't scare him away. And he just walked over, and we're watching him. And he just picked a place, and he sat down on his haunches. Thank you so much. Sat down on his haunches, and he just looked at us. And I just looked right at him. And then he walked over a little bit more, and he slowly lay down and kind of curled into a little coyote ball and just lay there. Now, Mama Duck, whose ducklings are so big now, you can barely tell them apart from the mama, but she knows they're her ducklings. She was squawking, 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 because that's their island where they have their nest. And she had them all in a tight little circle. So that was interesting to see that also. But the coyote just lay there, and he just looked at us. And I was transfixed because, you know, I love nature. And I've been going to the frog pond for probably 15 years, multiple times a week. I've never seen a coyote like that before. Seen one run by. Never seen one just stand there and then sit down and then lie down and just look at me. And he was so beautiful to me, so wild, right? And so self-possessed. So much a part of the environment of the frog pond. And I maintained eye contact with him for quite a while. And it was a moment of connection. You know, it was one of those exquisite, mystical moments in nature where suddenly the gap between my domesticated human experience and the existence of this beautiful, wild creature seemed a little smaller. Where the distance between wild and non-wild suddenly seemed a little more bridgeable. And where I felt that pull of the wildness that still lives deep within me somewhere. Maybe sometimes right on the surface, who knows? Maybe not that deep. These types of experiences, if you've had them, you know that they generally leave an impact on us. We don't quickly forget them. There are moments of serendipity that feel like sort of a gift from the universe. I know I felt that way once when I saw a great horned owl. It was just stunningly beautiful. And there are moments in which we are reminded of our inner wildness or our once wild nature. Last week I shared about another similar experience I had with a redwood tree. And that was also a moment in which I felt less separate from nature, more connected to and a part of the natural world. And it felt like in that moment when I went inside the tree that I'd been given a special pass to join in the lives of the trees, to be part of their world for just a short time. So there's no doubt that these types of experiences impact us. But could we allow ourselves to see these occurrences as nature actively inviting us into the sacred? Could we come to see such moments as an encounter with the presence of God? Could these moments actually transform us? Could they be just the kind of thing that our inner wild nature is yearning for? Could they be what ultimately heals us? And could we even cultivate the opportunity and the ability to have these moments occur more frequently as part of a spiritual practice? Well, these are the types of questions that are the subject of this wonderful book called Church of the Wild: How Nature Invites Us into the Sacred by Victoria Loers. I came across this book a few months ago when a clergy friend posted about it, and it immediately caught my attention. I purchased it on Amazon, and I've been sort of waiting for the right time to read it and speak about it. And with this topic that has emerged over the past 3 weeks of nature, it seemed like the perfect time. The author spent 20 years as a Christian pastor, and then spent a decade operating a nonprofit organization regarding climate change. And then she found herself experiencing severe burnout from both of those things. Even though she'd been successful as a pastor and the nonprofit had been very successful, she still felt deeply that something was missing. But then one day, she was out in nature, walking, and she was looking for the perfect oak tree to sketch. You know how we sometimes are looking for that perfect moment? She wanted the perfect tree and the perfect place to sit down. She had this idea in her mind of this nature experience that she was going to have. Has that ever happened to you? I know I've done that before. I have this idea in my mind. And she wasn't finding it, and she was getting frustrated. And she, so frustrated and disillusioned and just oh, forget it then. She's going back to her car when she spots this old oak tree that's right next to the parking lot. Something tells her to go over to it, and she goes over and she lies down under the oak tree. And that oak tree spoke to her in much the same way that I shared last week that the redwood tree spoke to me. Again, not in an embodied voice, but in a sort of inner knowing. And it said to her, "You could spend your entire life looking from tree to tree, and indeed, someday you might find a more perfect one to sketch. But you will have spent your life looking and never seeing. Stop and love what is right before you." I'm telling you, these trees are smart. Stop and love what is right before you. They just give us these gems of wisdom. It's wow. And this ended up being a pivotal moment for her that shifted things for her. Now, this is interesting because having left the ministry, she was attending a Christian denomination as a congregant, right? And when she shared her experience with the tree with some of her church friends, she was met with criticism and resistance. I'm sorry, it almost cracks me up. They warned her that she was treading into dangerous territory. Pantheism, animism, paganism. They reminded her that God was found in Scripture, not in trees. But that wasn't her experience, you see. And the experience that she'd had with that tree and the message it had given her had had a deep impact on her. And so this experience, this mystical experience, launched her on a journey to create something new that she wasn't finding in church. She wanted to create a type of church experience that involved real connection with the natural world, a way of including nature in the realm of what we consider sacred. So Reverend Loers began to study various things, and she studied the writings of the mystics, and she found that so many of them had written about the sacredness of nature, and so many had found mystical union with God through experiences in the natural world. Mystics like Hildegard of Bingen and St. John of the Cross, they knew the power of the wilderness to call us into relationship with something greater than ourselves. And it seems to be a two-way call. Nature calling to us and us seeking that experience in the wilderness. And she said, I've realized that it's not just that the wilderness invites us into the presence of the sacred. There's the mysterious reality that the sacred also calls us into the wilderness. Well, eventually she founded Church of the Wild, which is the name of the book. And this was a movement whose purpose it was to help people reconnect with nature, for people to begin to restore the relationship with the natural world that has been lost in our modern society. She consciously chose the preposition of, Church of the Wild, instead of calling it Church in the Wild, because she wanted to make sure it was clear that she wasn't talking about taking church just the way we've always done it and doing it outside, in the wild. She wanted this to be Church of the Wild. She wanted people to have an experience of being of the wild, being connected to it, and of people being able to expand their sense of belonging to the natural world. You know, modern civilization has largely disconnected us from the natural world. We've lost that sense of belonging to a place, right? Because we move around so much, we don't stay in the same place. We live within the walls of our own houses, we drive to work in cars, and we spend most of our lives disconnected from the natural world around us. Maybe a little less here on the Monterey Peninsula. We're a little more naturey. But imagine if you live in Silicon Valley. Even if you go hiking on the weekends, you spend the majority of your time disconnected from the natural world. Now, historically, unfortunately, the church has played a big role in the way we see the natural world within spirituality or within the church movement, by creating a sharp division between what was considered holy and what was considered profane or not holy. So in this idea that was created, all of the trappings of the church were holy, right? Priests, vestments, scriptures, altars, crucifixes, relics, and the buildings themselves. These things were all considered holy and sacred. Everything outside the church was considered not holy, not sacred. Now, it's not hard to note that this is in sharp contrast to the way many, many indigenous people had been living on this land and around the world for thousands of years, where the natural world was always considered holy. But think of what the church did to the notion of wilderness and wildness. The wild land was to be tamed, right? Animals. I read this book about how they treated the grizzly bears and mountain lions in the missions. They actually would capture them and fight them against each other. It's just horrific. This area used to be teeming with mountain lions and grizzly bears and wolves and elk. And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I'd say within 50 years or 100 years of the Spanish arriving here, they're gone, just gone. So things like animals, trees, and birds were casualties of this need to conquer the natural world. In our own state of California, as I mentioned, missions, as we know, were constructed with the main purpose of civilizing and converting the natives. Indigenous people were referred to as savages, and everything about them, their language, culture, religious practices, and beliefs, were considered unholy or heathen. Even earlier, going back earlier than that, think about the Salem witch hunts, where women who were too connected to nature, women who used herbs and natural remedies or who went into the woods for healing, were branded witches and were burned at the stake. We have long been taught that civilized is good and wild is bad. That organized religion is holy and earth-based practices are heathen. So Church of the Wild is a movement for us to reclaim wilderness as an integral part of our own inherent nature and to call it good, to call it sacred. Wilderness is not in opposition to spirituality. It's a return to authentic spirituality. as I read about her telling her church friends about the tree and them warning her that she was wandering dangerously into pagan territory, I felt so grateful that in Unity, we've never made that damaging distinction between holy and profane, sacred and not sacred, or not holy or mundane. In Unity, you won't be called a pagan for believing you had an experience of God while lying under an oak tree. And if you were called a pagan, that wouldn't be bad anyway, because we understand that as another path to God. And you won't be accused of practicing animism if you feel that God spoke to you through a redwood tree. We already have built into our foundational beliefs the idea that God is in everything. We believe and affirm that everything in the natural world, including us, is an expression of the divine. And we make no division, no distinction between what is sacred and what is profane. It is all sacred. It is all holy because it is all God. So, how is this Church of the Wild different? Because we know that many denominations, including Unity, have earth care ministries, right, that are concerned with caring for the planet and the environment. How is this different than that? Well, historically, even Unity to a certain extent, even in Unity, humans, and I talked about this a little bit last week, humans have been considered to have been, well, we're considered to be the apex of God's creation. Now, that on a day like today, with the things that have been going on, that just makes me chuckle, right? Apex of creation. With our semi-automatic machine guns, yes. But even in Unity, there is this flavor a little bit about humans having been given the right by God to have dominion over the natural world. There has been an evolution in many churches from believing that this, so first it was dominion over, right? Having the right to do whatever we want with the natural world. But that shifted a little bit to be that dominion means responsibility for good stewardship of the earth. Now that's progress, right? That's progress. And so we're to care for the earth as part of God's creation. But that's still not going far enough. And Church of the Wild takes this evolution of thinking a step further. Because if you think about it, saying that we have dominion and we need to be good stewards of the earth, we're still in charge, right? We're still the ones in charge of what happens to nature. What she is saying is that we are not the caretakers of the planet, but rather we are an integral part of it. We're not separate from the natural world, and our spirituality and God and the divine are not separate from the natural world. And we're not talking about dominion over the earth or even stewardship of the earth, but rather a true coming to realize that we are but one small part of this vast web of life on this planet, and that all of it is an expression of the divine. Do you see the difference? It's the difference between that human hubris, placing us at the top in charge of everything, and taking our rightful place as being a part of the web of life. So Church of the Wild is not about earth care, although many Church of the Wild groups do activism for environmental things and climate change and all of that. That can be a part of what a Church of the Wild does. But Church of the Wild is really about us having the opportunity to experience ourselves as part of this web of life. So the author says, there's an unmediated presence of God that can only be experienced outside the human constructs of civilization when we enter into reverent relationship with the natural world. Reverent relationship, not dominion over, right? But a respectful relationship. So what happens, what are some of the wonderful things that can happen when we engage with the natural world in this reverent relationship? Well, we know, and the examples that I've shared show that nature has so much to teach us. Just like the wisdom that she received from the oak tree and I received from the redwood and even from the coyote. Nature calls us into silence. When we spend time in nature, we learn to get quiet. And we learn to fill our ears with natural noises, right? Like crickets or an owl hooting, rather than man-made noises like horns and cell phones. This process of entering into the silence allows us to first begin to quiet the inner chatter and begin to hear our own true voice. And then when we go even deeper than that, we quiet even our own voice, and we can begin to hear that still small voice of spirit speaking through the natural world. Nature calls us into the present moment. Wild animals are not thinking about what happened yesterday, I'm pretty sure. Trees aren't worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. Can you imagine that 1,200-year-old tree? Can you imagine worrying every day for 1,200 years about what's going to happen tomorrow? I don't think you'd last 1,200 years. They're too busy just being. And we can learn from that. Nature reminds us to walk slowly, to pay attention, to notice things, sounds, colors, textures, to stop and notice the beauty of a flower or the industriousness of a honeybee, the amazing complexity of a spider's web. Nature slows us down, and it gives us deep rest. Going back to what I talked about 2 weeks ago, that need for us to experience deep rest, meaning rest from this technological, overstimulated culture that we live in. Well, the wonderful activist John Muir, who we can credit with even having places today like Yosemite to go to, he said, "Come to the woods, for here is rest. There is no repose like that of the green, deep woods." And we know that the Japanese even have a practice. What is it? Shinrin? No. The forest bathing. They have a practice of forest bathing where they go into the forest because they know the benefits that spending time in the woods has. Nature also helps us develop a sense of belonging. It helps us to understand that we too have a place in the family of things, not up at the top, but within it, in our rightful place. That we're not outside the web of life. We're not outside of wilderness looking in. We are an integral part of it. Nature calls us into relationship with something larger, something bigger and greater than ourselves, right? Think of the feeling you get when you stand by the ocean, that sense of enormity, right? Or if you've ever visited the Grand Canyon, one of my favorite places on this planet, there's a palpable sense of our own smallness, which feels good sometimes, right? And that enormity of creation that is at once humbling and awe-inspiring. And it returns to us that sense of wonder that we had as children. Nature teaches us about the interconnection of all things, what we call oneness. But not in a theoretical way like me standing up here talking about oneness, but in an experiential way, where we experience ourselves connected to other things, connected to everything, and we catch those glimpses of oneness in that experiential way. That's what stays with us, not hearing me talk about it. Having your own experience of it is what transforms you. Again, John Muir said of his own experiences in nature, he said, when we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe. That experience of interconnectedness that we can see when we go into nature, it's right there plain for us to see. So in ways that, even in ways that may surprise us, nature supports us. It has an ability to care for us in difficult times. How many people have ever gone out into nature when you were in turmoil or in some kind of emotional pain? I know that I've done it many times, and whenever I have done that, I have always felt nature respond to me. I've never felt nature go like, "Oh, you're here again." No, nature is always like, "Welcome, welcome, come and be with us. Have rest, heal your soul." Right? Ultimately, nature calls us back to ourselves. It teaches us about our own true selves, our own essential nature. Because nature doesn't care what we look like. Nature doesn't care how much money we make or what degrees we may have. When we enter into sacred relationship with nature, we get a chance to set all of that down and to see who we really are underneath all of it. I shared a couple weeks ago about an experience that I had of just sitting for hours, literally, on this wooden bridge when I was out in Cachagua. And after I'd sat there for some time, I literally felt some of my identities and facades begin to melt away. Have you ever experienced that? It's powerful. I started asking myself, well, who am I really? You know, like this weekend, I'm here by myself. I'm not mom. I'm not wife. I'm not minister. Who am I when all of that is removed from me? Who am I underneath all of that in my essential nature? Now, it's not that we get, clear answers, but it's the asking. It's creating space for those questions to even bubble up within us. That's so important. Again, John Muir said, I only went out for a walk, and I finally concluded to stay out till sundown. For going out, I found, was really going in. I love that. Going out was really going in. So just quickly, what am I talking about? What would a church of the wild look like? Now, the author has purposely avoided creating any kind of liturgy or dogma because she doesn't want to confine it in that way, but she does give suggestions and ideas and, ideas for meditations and things in the book. Many churches of the wild are led by Christian pastors, but the content is not Christian because nature is not Christian. Right? The content is nature itself. So it's by nature, it is interfaith or interspirituality, and it honors all traditions. Wild churches, as she calls them, meet in all kinds of places. Some meet under an oak tree or in a redwood forest. Some meet in a park. Some meet even in a parking lot. They meet wherever they can, but always outside. These gatherings are intergenerational, meaning folks of all ages are welcome. So a typical service, as she describes, might begin with a time of quiet listening, a way of entering reverently into the space of nature where they're meeting, listening to the sounds around them and settling down and becoming present. And then they offer a land acknowledgement. So the living beings, all of them that live in that space, are acknowledged. That's a practice in itself, right? How often do we go tromping through the forest? We're not even thinking about whose home we're in, right? And then the elements of the land are acknowledged and shown respect. So if there's a river or a pond or a lake or some big, topographical thing like that. And then, and this is so important, the indigenous inhabitants of the land are named. And they talk about the thousands of years that those people have cared for the land and lived on the land. And they mention the damage that was done to them and how their way of life was taken from them. So this is all acknowledged, it's spoken. Then there may be music, there may be poems, there may be stories. The main bulk of the service, this is just the suggestion again, the pastor gives a short invitation into a wandering practice. Now, she goes into a lot of description about what this wandering is like. But basically, people have about 30 to 45 minutes to just be in nature. They might wander far, or they might not go too far. But it's just following one's heart, following whatever one is called to, knowing that nature is just right there, ready to impart a lesson, a wisdom, a tidbit, something that we need, and knowing that we'll find whatever we need. And she talks about this as entering into a conversation with nature. So we know a conversation is two ways, right? And so it's opening up to listen to nature. And after that time, the group comes back together and folks they have an opportunity to share if they want to experiences that they've had. Then the service is closed with expressions of gratitude and a sort of wild blessing as a benediction. Does this sound interesting to you? Sort of? Like something you might be interested in doing? Because if you can tell, I'm getting a little passion going for this idea. There are about 3, I think, local churches that are doing this once a month. They're meeting at the ocean. I have much more interest in meeting by the redwoods, but I can get you information about that. I think they meet once a month. Now, Vicki and I are constantly seeing article about how church has to change with the times, right? That if we don't change, I don't know, something calamitous is going to happen. And I hope that we will always keep doing Sunday church service because I love it and I think it's important. I think it's cultural. We've been celebrating Sunday Sabbath for hundreds of years. This would be something extra, something in addition that might meet once a month. It might meet on a Saturday or a Sunday evening. Because nature resonates deeply with me, and I know it does with some of you too. But whether we actually end up trying this out or not, the important thing I want you to take from today's lesson is how very vital it is for all of us, for our own mental, physical, and spiritual health, for the health of our planet, to work to restore the broken relationship with the natural world, to seek out experiences in nature as a way of engaging the sacred, as a way of experiencing the presence of God, and as a way of deepening and expanding our knowing of our own divinity and of the divinity of all of creation. Because as we learn to honor the sacred in the natural world, in all beings, we also learn to honor the sacred in ourselves and in our fellow humans. And this is what our world, I believe, needs now more than ever. Thanks.
Let go of the world's expectations. I let go of all view of who I am. I let go of the world's expectations. I let go of all view of who I am. I return to the one who created me. I return to the spirit I am. I return to the one who created me. I return to the spirit I am. I let go of the world's expectations. I let go of all view of who I am. I let go of the world's expectations. I let go of all view of who I am.
So just getting comfortable in your seat, closing your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Finding your breath, finding your center, finding a sense of where your body is in space. Allowing yourself to feel rooted down into the earth, grounded, connected, supported. Breathing in slowly and deeply, letting go of all outer concerns, and just practicing being. hearing the sounds around you, the water trickling. Maybe you can hear birds outside. Just resting. Just being. In this relaxed and open and receptive space, I share with you this poem by Mary Oliver, Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. So I invite you now to rest for just a few moments, having a little bit better of a sense of your place in the family of things, in the silence.
Expectations. I let go of all view of who I am. I let go of the world's expectations. I let go of all view of who I am. I return to the one who created me. I return to the spirit I am. I return to the one who created me. I return to the spirit I am. I let go of the world's expectations. I let go of all view of who I am. I let go of the world's expectations. I let go of all view of who I am.
So as we begin to prepare now to bring this exquisite time of peace and silence and rest to a close, we do so with our hearts filled with gratitude for the abundance of God's creation, for this beautiful nature that is all around us, for the opportunities that we have to get out into it and to connect and restore that relationship. We give thanks for this beautiful day. So we say, thank you, thank you, thank you, sweet Spirit. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
We've come to a time in our service where we get to participate actively in the flow of God's good in the world. Unity of Monterey Bay is the collective consciousness and commitment of all of us who give of our time, our treasure, and our talent in order to sustain this spiritual community that is dedicated to transforming lives. We know that prosperity is a state of mind that finds blessings in every situation and abundance in joyous generosity. And as you probably already guessed, I have a little story for you. I was in a conversation with a friend of mine this week, and it was such an extraordinary conversation that I want to share it with you. So this is someone I've known for many years, and he has spent most of his life, he's not a minister or it's not occupational, but he has spent most of his life in service to others. He's getting older, and I was a little concerned about all the service he was doing for all those others, because I love him. And I said, you know, this must sometimes feel very heavy. It must become burdensome. And he was quite surprised by what I had said. And he said, oh, no, God's purpose for my life was to serve others. And most of my life, I've been lined up with God's purpose. So in fact, it's usually felt quite joyful and weightless. And I thought afterwards, is that how we know? Is that how we know that we're lined up? That it feels quite joyful most of the time and without weight. So, with our hearts and minds overflowing with gratitude, we breathe into the divine flow of God's good, trusting that we are enough, that we have enough, and that there always is enough, both to have and share. Again, we're grateful for all of you for your online giving through our website at unityofmonterey.org, and for those of you who go into the bookstore, the Sacred Grounds, and write your check there. For those of you who put an offering in the basket that's at the end of the pews. And for those of you who've chosen automatic giving, it helps a lot because we can better forecast what we have and what we need to sustain this community. We are truly blessed. And now, from this place of faith and gratitude, I invite you to join me in mindful intention and joining in our offertory blessing. I am an open channel for God's infinite good, divine love flowing through me, blesses and multiplies everything I give and everything I receive. I am both blessed and a blessing. Thank you, God.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, bright day, the dark secret night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Oh, yeah. Louie. Oh, today we would like to thank Cat Stevens and his doppelganger, John Talon, and Eleanor Farjean, Lois J. Henriksen, Richard Burdick, and Bob Thiel and George Weiss for their inspiring music. Our awesome music team, John on vocals, and Marianne and Robin, and Sue on keyboards, and of course Denise and Richard Conklin today here on drums. So good to have him here with us. Okay, for announcements, I'm going to refer you to our e-blast, but I've been reminded that our July 3rd event is coming up very quickly. So this is just to keep it on your radar. And Kay tells me it's 3 weeks from today. I'm thinking, oh, that's a couple months away. No, it's 3 weeks from today. So plan to be here. I don't know 100% for sure. Vicky's coming back on Tuesday. I'm pretty sure we are doing what we always do every year, which is our Volunteer Appreciation Sunday and a potluck. We'll probably do dogs and stuff, and you bring the sides. I'm assuming that's the plan. So you'll know more for sure next week, but be sure to plan on coming to that. It will be a wonderful time. We always celebrate our, it's going to be Vicky's 24?
Ooh.
No, 90. I think they came in 98. No. 23 or 24 years. And then also we celebrate whatever it is, 2 less than that is our independence, our standing as an independent unity church. So a good time will be had by all. As we bring our service to a close this morning, we are so grateful that you have joined us here, whether you're here in person or joining us on Facebook or watching later on YouTube. We are glad that you're here, and we want you to know that you are part of our community, even if we don't see your face. And we hope we've made you feel at home in our UMB community, and we want you to know that wherever you are today on your spiritual journey, you're welcome here. Our prayer chaplain available to pray with you today is Robin. And with all of that, let's form our closing circle for our prayer for protection and our peace song. Oh, yeah. So good to see Howard here. And Falake. So good to see you here too. Oh, I also want to acknowledge the folks that from our community that showed up yesterday for the March for Our Lives. So it was Kay and Paulinda and Marianne and Kathy Greenwald. Yeah, so important for us to be a presence at that, and I'm grateful that you all were there. Holding all those in our community in need of prayer today, in our hearts, all those on our prayer lists, all those that are on our own minds and hearts today, and including, once again, our beautiful planet and all of the beings in it, as we join in our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment